Call the meeting to order and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice for all.
Thank you. And again, a happy Thanksgiving and holiday season to one and all. New appointments to the commission. Mr. Hollenbeck, please. New appointments to the commission, Mr. Hollenbeck.
I don't believe there are any, but Dave,
I am not aware of any new appointment communications since our last meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. We could have a roll call and approval of the minutes of the September 16th, 2021 Executive Board action requested approval with the roll call.
Okay, sure. I'll take roll call and then you'll get a motion in a second.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve in a second? Well, we can, has everyone had a chance to read it and any discussion?
Move to approve, Greg Stinson.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any?
Sorry, who was the second?
I was.
Kevin Britsky was the second.
Thank you.
Jim Todd seconded too.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, it needs to be
Any
done.
further discussion? Please take the roll then. Thank you.
Kyle Allen. Dwayne Arndt. Jeanette Baps.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Was that Dwayne Arndt?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Janet Beck. Jeff Benson.
Candy, Jeff just entered.
Who did?
Jeff Benson just entered.
Okay. Jeff Benson, we're taking roll call and approval of the minutes. Jeff Benson?
Here?
Okay, thank you. Jim Biggs? Kevin Britsky?
Yes.
Thank you. Charlie Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Robert Carnahan? Bill Carroll? Anthony Copeland? Jocelyn Denham? Tom Dermody?
Yes.
Thank you. John Derwinski?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Dinah Dumbrus?
Present.
Thank you. Denise Ebert? Bill Carroll? Robert Forster?
Yes.
Thank you. Michael Griffin? Richard Hardaway?
Yes.
Thank you. Tony Hendricks? Eric Hall?
Yes.
Thank you. Jack Geralds?
Here's what his last name.
Justin Keel?
Yes.
Thank you. Andrew Kiris?
Yes.
Thank you. Robert LeMay? Sue Lynch? Sheila Matias? Tom McDermott? Lori Mercer? Wendy Miss? Mike Molenauer? Edward Morales?
Taking roll and moving up.
Matt Murphy? Dwayne Perry?
Yes.
Thank you. David Peeler?
Yes.
Thank you. Bob Paparad? Jim Pressel? Jerome Prince?
Yes.
Thank you. Rick Rifa. Tom Schmidt. Tom Schmidt, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Brian Snedecor. Steve Spebar. Greg Stinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Gerald Swets. Sharon Zuido. Mary Tanis.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Jim Tunn.
Yes.
Thank you. George Topple.
Yes,
George? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. John Yelkich. If anybody is joined that did not hear their name called, would you please let me know you're here?
This is Wendy, miss. I'm here.
Great. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank
I'm Robert
you.
Lemay. I may have been muted. I'm here.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Anybody else? Okay, we do have 7 executive board members.
Oh, we
Candy,
have-
what was our final count for
23. 23, it's including the 7 executive board members.
Can you say that again? What is the full total of full commission?
There's 23 of the full commission. That is including 7 of the executive board.
We'll have to continue with an executive session and
executive board?
executive board. And we'll have to see about having a potential full commission meeting again before the end of the year. Ty, what are your thoughts?
We may have to talk about that some, and I am fine with things continuing the course here and picking things up in January, but we'll have to have a conversation about that, I think.
Okay, well, we'll move on then. All right, so we're continuing on with the executive board meeting. If we get to a full commission during the course of the meeting, please notify us. And if anyone has joined the meeting since we took the roll call, please identify yourself. All right, public comments on current agenda items. Is there anyone that has signed up for that? Since there is apparently no public comment, well, I'm going to move on to report of the chair. And I just wanted to say that we're still working on the budget, and we'll get to that later on in the meeting, and a number of issues that we can address during the latter portion. Ty Warner, do you have a report for Executive Director?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, everybody, thank you for joining today. Really appreciate it. I am joining you from Tennessee today, outside of Nashville. And like several of you already commented on the Christmas tree, it is a little bit earlier than we would do in our own home, but I'm thankful for it nonetheless. And since this is the last officially scheduled meeting of the year, it's appropriate to get us into the holidays. So I don't mind putting it in the background at all. So happy holidays in advance to everybody. I know it's been a tough year and tough couple of years. Thank you all for persevering in this fashion by Zoom since spring of 2020. We'll see how things happen into 2021. But as I said before the meeting officially started, there's a good chance we will be meeting in person come January. So this May, we will see, but this may be our last full commission meeting or attempted full commission meeting by Zoom. So I just want to thank everybody for hanging in there. And I know you've done this with your own city councils and town councils and county commissions, and you've made the best of it. And everybody has been just a real trooper through this. And we have not missed a beat in any of our attempted activities and our required activities that we've had to do over this entire time. And that's a testament not only to staff and their ability to keep functioning under these circumstances, but for you all continuing to be engaged by whatever technology is out there to be able to let you be engaged. So I just want to make sure before we get to the end of the year to thank you for going with the flow and making this all work. So there's been a lot of great news going on, and I have much to share this morning. I'll try to keep everything brief in my report, but I'm going to start off with the biggest and newest big news that we have had. And some of you may have seen bits and pieces about this already, but we received word just this week, in the last couple of days, that our RAISE grant application, which is the fourth time that we have made application under this infrastructure program. Some of you that have been around for a while may have remembered there was the Tiger grant, and then that got morphed into the Build grant, and then that got morphed into the RAISE grant. And Mitch Barloga has been absolutely tireless in his continuing to resubmit for the Marquette Greenway under each of those grant opportunities. And although we've gotten good feedback for various reasons on federal priorities and who knows what all goes into the decision making, the first 3 attempts at that, we were not successful in trying to complete the Marquette Greenway, which, for those of you that have not been as attuned into that, is just a super significant massive trail connection to connect all the way from Chicago to New Buffalo, Michigan. Just has huge potential for activating all the communities along the trail and to get folks engaged with our natural resources in one continuous linear connection. Now, with the 4th attempt at this application under the RAISE grant, I'm happy to say that the United States Department of Transportation is awarding us over $17 million to complete that project. And so 4th time was indeed the charm. And we received that news, and that is the best news we could have received all year. And I know Mitch in particular is over the moon about this. Again, he's worked tirelessly to keep this in front of the feds and to keep this vision alive. This goes way back to the Marquette Plan and Congressman Pete Bisklowski's vision for that lakefront, and Congressman Ravan has been a huge supporter as well. And we appreciate Senator Young's support also in this, and all our delegation and all the and trying to make this thing happen. So I'm just really pleased to formally announce before the commission that we finally been awarded that grant to complete that project. So we couldn't be happier, and I just hope that that bodes well for other things we have cooking with grants, and may this be the first of many such big announcements. So just to congratulate, I got a few more things on my report, but I just want to say congratulations to the entire commission. Congratulations to Mitch and to everybody who worked on this application to bring this to reality. This is a really big deal, and we couldn't be more grateful for that announcement. So thank you and congratulations on that.
Thank you, Ty. Does that conclude the report?
I have a few more items, but go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to second, thanks to NERC staff and all of Northwest Indiana. I think it's going to be a terrific project for everyone, and hopefully we'll see more developments of a similar nature in the years to come.
Question.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is there a beginning and end to the grant period?
Mitch, do you have the how the exact funding and distribution of that works?
Certainly. We have about a 5 to 6 year window to complete the project. We are anticipating that to be quicker because many of the segments along the Greenway are already owned by the municipalities, or they are owned by NICD. And we've had a good relationship working with the South Shoreline on that end. So we're hoping within a good 5 years, we can have it completed.
Great. Thank you.
And Ty, I want to make one quick mention. I do thank you for yes, this is the largest non-motorized investment in the history of the region by far for one single project. But I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Scott Weber, our fellow staff member here at NERC. He put together the benefit cost analysis. And since math scares me and he runs to it, I run away from it. I can't thank him enough for doing that work. It really played a large role in helping us secure this grant. And if you have the opportunity to take a look at the grant in full, it is on our website. You'll see all the work he did making that benefit cost analysis come to life and really make our application shine. So I really thank Scott for his work.
Thanks for that, Mitch. And again, congratulations, because like I've said multiple times already, you just poured so much into this and never stopped going back to try to tempt it in. So I know you've been looking forward to this a long time. So
Thank you
congratulations.
very much.
Thank you.
And Mitch mentioned the application, and if you want to see it yourself and see what we put into the federal government, that is available on our website. If you go to the mobility tab at the top, there's a drop-down menu, and you'll see Raise Grant right on there, so you can look at the details of the application. So more news on that as we continue and receive the funding and get underway with the work. But again, congratulations to all involved. And I think I'll use that then to segue to the next big thing that we've applied for, that, of course, hoping for similarly good news. And a lot of people put a lot of effort into yet another grant application in our economic development realm. As you know, we've become an economic development district since the fall of 2019, and that created some prime opportunities for additional funding for the region. And particularly under the American Rescue Plan Act, we, as with the rest of the country, had a new opportunity through the EDA to apply for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant. And I want to thank Dennery Kane and Matthew Pascash and Peter Kimball and other staff that contributed in throwing, I won't say throwing because it was a lot more thought and work than that, but putting an application together in very short order. We had a very short time frame from the EDA because they have $3 billion in among 6 grant programs that they have to spend by September of 2022, thanks to Congress. And this particular regional challenge grant, Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant, therefore had a very compressed timeline with a lot that needed to go into that application. And so we had just a tremendous amount of support from partners all across the region, from private sector to nonprofits to governmental entities, to a lot of folks, both in a tighter coalition for that grant and then a bigger realm of support according to some key industry areas that the Economic Development Administration wanted to see. So although we won't receive word on that application until December, I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that went into it and the potential of what that could help fund. So the Marquette Greenway active transportation trail, Chicago to New Buffalo, but in a somewhat similar vein, the application for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant is to activate the fiber corridor within the tollway and the South Shore right-of-way to create a super fiber-rich internet quantum corridor between Chicago and South Bend. And a huge undertaking and huge ask if we're able to be successful with that. And again, I hope the Marquette Greenway is just a sign of good things to come. That grant, if we're successful in December, it's a 2-phase grant. Phase 1 will be announced in December. That's a $500,000 award, which enables you to go on to phase 2 to actually implement the projects that you identified in phase 1, which again, in our case, centers around a Midwest quantum corridor, a fiber corridor. And if we're successful with phase 2, that provides up to $100 million to be able to actually make that a reality. So of course, we'll keep you posted on that grant application, but we're really happy with the support that we got. And again, if the energy and the whole impetus behind the Marquette Greenway serves us into this next grant, we hope to be able to share good news for that as well. So stay tuned for news on that. And I just wanted to highlight it, even though we don't have news yet on the award, it just really gels with so much else that is happening in this corridor with other partners. So regardless of whether we receive funding under the EDA, this has already been included in the READY grant submission to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation that the forum has spearheaded in putting that application together. So it would help get funded in that, as the Marquette Greenway, if we're funded under the READY grant, receives a little additional funding to help make that a reality. So that's all included within the READY grant. And then on top of that, this was the focus of One Region's annual luncheon that Congressman Mervan and Senator Young spoke at just in the last few weeks. And this whole quantum corridor and the potential along this was the subject of that event as well. So lots of energy on this, building on to the Hammond Data Center that opened right on the Chicago border. And again, to make that connection right through our region. The same reason that we're the crossroads of America for transportation means that we're all the crossroads of America for these kind of potential quantum communications, which is just exciting technology that this region has the potential to be on the cutting edge of. So we hope for good news for that. And then I've got just two more items related to the Economic Development District. So thanks for hearing me out here. There's just a lot to talk about. And then we're going to give you an update on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and what that means. So two quick items for our Economic Development District. First of all, you already know about Recover NWI, which is our revolving loan fund, which came out of monies we received as an Economic Development District from the Economic Development Administration. Matthew Paskash is the prime mover behind that program. And that application has, or not application, that program has $530,000 to be spent through small loans. We've talked about this before, but I just want to accentuate again the availability of that. We have a sizable loan that we just were able to get permission to loan. And so that is really exciting news, and hopefully we'll have more to come. So just want to again encourage you to share that with small business owners that you are aware of that were affected by the pandemic, that were in existence prior to January 1st of 2020, and can show that they had an impact from the pandemic. We have an obligation to spend those funds, and we want to get them out there to help small businesses recover from these last 2 years. So I want to highlight Recover NWI again. Information is right on our website. If you go to the economy section of our tab and choose it there, you can get that information. And then the second item for the Economic Development District is we are, as you know, because we approved a contract for this, TIP Strategies as consultants to help us develop a resiliency plan for Northwest Indiana for economic recovery, so that future pandemics, future events that cause similar disruptions to what we've just experienced can be potentially avoided by figuring out the strategies that our region can put in place to prevent those in the future. We have a great Sugar Plum Fairy soundtrack with that resiliency plan announcement. So I think that's going to happen in the middle of the night with a big Christmas tree raising out and a mouse war and all the rest. So that's going to be a really good Christmas present when that gets done. That project is about to launch, and we put out a request to everybody on the commission list to help us acquire the data that the consultants, TIP Strategies, will be looking for, and ask you to at least connect us to those that have that data. And I just want to put that request out there again, that if you can find that email, or just contact Kane, who's our Economic Development District Coordinator, about how to connect her to the folks in your community that can help us get the economic data that TIP Strategies is looking for to make this an effective plan that will help the economic resiliency of all of us. I just want to put that request out there. So look for that email, and please respond to Dennery with any information you can give us that would help us to make this a very robust effort. So that is the items that I wanted to talk about. But like I said, as you know, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was just signed by President Biden this week, was approved by Congress last week, and has gotten quite a bit of attention. And I know that a question on many people's minds, because I've gotten a lot, is what this means for Northwest Indiana, and particularly for the federal funding programs for infrastructure that NERC normally receives. And so I've asked Thomas to give an overview of that, and I appreciate his work on trying to pull together and get an initial projection on what this means for our funding into the future. So I am going to pass the baton over to Thomas. If you can jump in and go ahead and give that overview, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Ty. I appreciate it. We have put together a brief PowerPoint presentation just so you can see some of the numbers up on the screen. As Ty just mentioned, President Biden signed into law the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act just on Monday. So we haven't had a whole lot of time here on staff to review the legislation. There will be several, well, let me begin by saying that this is a $1.2 trillion act. And of that $1.2 trillion, $550 billion is new spending, and $275 billion of that is on the transportation side of the programs. So it's a significant increase in the total funding for transportation nationally. So it's really good news for all of us. here at NERC and in the communities that comprise our region. So we're really excited about that. There are going to be some policy changes to each of the existing programs. There are also several new programs that have been created as well. And I think two of them that we've heard a little bit covered in the news. There's going to be a carbon reduction program, and then there's also going to be a new program they call Protect, which is going to help us look at resiliency in the transportation system as well. So as far as the specific programs that we're aware of, NERC does receive a lot of funding from Federal Highway and Federal Transit to support the transportation planning that we do. We're anticipating a 32% increase. We currently receive about $1.5 million per year. We're anticipating that to increase to about $2 million per year. With that extra $500,000 in federal funding, there is going to be an impact on the NERC budget. Currently, we're providing just shy of $400,000 per year to match our PL and 5303 funds. That's the Metropolitan Planning Funds. And that will need to increase to about $500,000 per year due to the increase on the federal funding. And so I just thought that it's helpful to kind of put that in the context of where we stand in the larger budget. As everybody knows, with the release of the 2020 census, we now have just shy of 800,000 people in the region. State law requires each of the 3 counties in our region to provide 70 cents per capita to NERC to support all of the transportation, environmental, and economic development programs that we administer. And that will be generating, with the new census numbers, almost $540,000 annually. But as I said, we're going to need $500,000 annually to match the PL and 5303 funds. So if all of that went to transportation planning, that would only leave just shy of $40,000 for everything else NERC does. So I think that's something that the Executive Commission will be working with Ty and staff on as we move forward in the course of the next year to kind of figure out how to approach that.
Thomas, I don't want to interrupt you, but I guess Am, just really quickly, just to remind the commission that twice now the commission has adopted a resolution asking the state legislature to increase that 70 cents per capita with a resolution that was drafted with the help of with Michael Griffin, who put in the calculator for bringing that 70 cents up per capita up to current value, which is about $1, and then indexing it to consumer price index, so that we wouldn't have to keep falling behind as we have done since at least 1993. We simply do not have enough local match to access the federal funds available to us, and so appreciate the commission having passed a resolution twice to request the legislature to change our statute to raise that local share. And this is becoming more and more pertinent every single day. So we need to get that number up, and we need the commission's help to do it. This is not something that, as I've said before, that staff can champion. This is something that has to come from the commission. And so
Does that all have to
this
be
is out there again to stress the importance of this.
Ty? Does that all have to be hard cash, or can it be in kind or some other match? Does it have to be cash?
For the to match
To
the
match,
PL?
Yes.
Yeah. We need it's dollars. It's dollars that we need.
Thank you.
Right, and Ty, since you were talking about the support the commission has had in the past about raising the statutorily required fee, I might pitch you out there that a lot of the larger MPOs in the country have started adopting what I would call a tip participation fee as well, where when a community or a project sponsor programs funds in their tip, the MPO would collect a fee to help provide that match as well. And that's something that we certainly could think about and explore too. I just kind of wanted to throw that out, that we don't necessarily have to depend solely on the legislature. And I probably should have asked you before I threw that out there, but there are strategies that other MPOs are employing to raise the
Recording
non-federal
in
funds, federal
progress.
funds. Okay, so if we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So NERC also suballocates a lot of the federal funds that are administered by the Indiana Department of Administration, including the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. The way that we manage the programs, we have two different groups. Group one are our two larger counties with Lake County and Porter County. Group two is LaPorte County, and it has to do with our two urbanized areas. The two counties on the west side of the region are part of Group 1 funding, and LaPorte County on the east side of the region is part of the Group 2 funding. On the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, our Group 1 communities have been receiving on average during the FAST Act $12.4 million per year. We're anticipating that to increase to $16.3 million per year. And similarly for Group 2, we've been receiving just over $1.1 million per year, and we're going to anticipate that increasing to just over $1.5 million per year. The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality, or CMAQ program, again, we're anticipating a 10% increase in funding for this particular program. So we would be going from $3.7 million to $4 million, and we would be going from $630,000 to $692,000 in Group 2. If we can go ahead and advance to the next screen, please. A couple more programs we have is the Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP. That's going to be back to a 32% increase in funding. So that'll go from about $3 million per year to $3.8 million per year for our Group 1 communities, and from $329,000 to $434,000 per year for our Group 2 communities. Our Transportation Alternatives Program, for Group 1, we're currently receiving just over $1 million per year. We're anticipating a 76% increase in funding for this program. So that would be increased to almost $1.9 million per year for our Group 1 communities. And our Group 2 communities, we're expecting the funding to increase from $103,000 per year to $181,000 per year. So if we can go ahead and advance to the next screen. And then transit. Transit is going to experience a significant increase. Most of the programs will be increasing by 63% per year. So the big one is obviously the 5307 program, and we're anticipating that funding to increase from just over $12 million a year to just over $20 million a year for our region. For our 5310 program, we're expecting the funding to increase from just under $500,000 per year to almost $775,000 per year. For the 5337 program, the Transit State of Good Repair, we're anticipating that funding to increase from almost $16 million a year to almost $26 million per year. And then finally, for our 5339 program, the Bus and Bus Facilities program, we're anticipating that increasing from about $525,000 to just over $850,000 per year as well. So if we can advance to the next slide, please. So what's next? Well, the next thing that's going to happen is USDOT is going to have to issue regulations and guidance regarding the programmatic and policy changes that will occur as a result of this new federal legislation. Federal Highway will then need to apportion funds to the state and distribute obligation authority to the state as well. And FTA will have to publish their funding tables. And then the last thing I wanted to mention too is that Congress is still considering the Build Back Better Act, which is another $1.75 trillion act that could provide even more funding to some of the programs that have received funding through the IIJA. So a lot of money is going to be coming to the region. A lot of additional money is going to be flowing to the state of Indiana through the Indiana Department of Transportation. Some of that money will also be available to be spent in this region as well by NDOT. And there will be new competitive and new formula programs as well. And we're just starting to dig into those to see how we may benefit from those as well. So that's kind of a lot of numbers thrown at you really quickly. I guess the big takeaway is that on average, the federal highway programs are increasing usually by 32%, and the federal transit programs are increasing usually by 69%. So quite a bit more money for us to spend on transportation projects. So if there's any questions that the commission has, I'll be happy to try to answer them. But again, I want to stress that it's really early. The act has been, the ink on the act is only a week old, not even quite a week old at this point. So we still probably have a lot of questions just like you do as well.
Mr. Chairman, this is Michael Griffin. May I pose a question?
Yes, Mr. Griffin.
And good morning.
Good to see you're on board.
Yes, I'm glad to. Good morning, everyone. I thought the report was as thorough as we could get, given its the newness or the nascent nature of the grant. There was 2 points that were raised I thought were interesting. One of the points is I'd like to know more about the tip fee, if that's something that's paid out of the grant itself, or if that's an add-on that any of the participating communities would have to do. I'd like to understand that a little bit more, but I'm intrigued by that. And I don't know if that would go to the finance committee or if it'd be appropriate for a task force, because I've worked on the advocacy 2 times to try to get the increase in our general funding for the local match. And I do think that that's something we should work on in earnest. Secondly, what about staffing? Are we adequately staffed with all this extra money? There have to be plans to execute the allocation and distribution. It's been a long time since we've had this kind of problem where we have so much money we don't know what to do with it. Surely we do know what to do with it, but we have to have plans to do that. Is that a consideration that is that the staff of the commission is preparing to make a recommendation to the full commission about?
Well, if I can take a stab, and Thomas, if you want to, add or augment or correct anything too. As Thomas was alluding to earlier, a lot of this is a matter of the federal money, and this, Michael, because I know we've talked about this. The federal funds that are available cannot be accessed without a certain amount of local match. So even if we have more money available to us without the local match to be able to access the federal funds, then it doesn't necessarily do us the good that it otherwise might. So these things are absolutely totally related. We are getting in a situation, and normally I don't know that we talked about this directly during this meeting, but the Finance and Personnel Committee has talked about it extensively. We are in a situation due to multiple factors where we were not able to get the budget before the full commission today. Typically that happens prior to entering the new year. And we simply are not in that position to be able to do that. And that's all these things are related whenever there's dollars involved. So there are some decisions that have to be made, some trade-offs that have to be made, and that's the situation that we're in right now. I don't know if I skirted your question or answered it, but that's the short.
Well, you did. Okay, you kind of answered it. So even if we did something with this tip fee, that might help operationally, but it wouldn't generate probably enough to make the match. The match is the real challenge.
The match is the challenge, and Thomas, I want to give you the opportunity to talk because you've had more experience where this has been implemented, where Thomas used to work before in a previous job life. But he's brought this idea, which is why it's great to have this have folks that have experienced the world outside of Northwest Indiana or Chicagoland to bring some strategies that have happened elsewhere, and that's one of the things that he has been bringing to the table. But that, of course, requires more discussion on what all that can be applied to and how we would implement it and what would happen. Thomas, I don't know if you want to add. You've lived where they've done this.
Yeah, I think the way that this has worked in the communities that I'm familiar with, I worked for the Kansas Department of Transportation for 15 years. And the Mid-America Regional Council, which is the Council of Governments and MPO for the multi-county Kansas City metropolitan region, bi-state region. They were the first region in Kansas to adopt a tip participation fee. And what they did is they asked all of their project sponsors to contribute a certain percentage of construction costs from each of the projects that were programmed in the tip. And at the time the projects were amended into the tip or put into a new tip, that's when the money was provided. That was provided out of city or county funding. So it's not federal funding, it's locally raised funding, which essentially has the impact of taking what normally is an 80-20 split on a project. It becomes a little bit more locally funded. So it becomes 79-21%. Basically, that's the big impact. But then that affords the MPO the opportunity to have enough cash match to provide the required match for the federal planning funds. And the other benefit for it is that those communities that are benefiting the most from the services that the MPO provides, in terms of they're receiving the federal funds, the traditionally 80-20 split, they're the ones that would be helping support the MPO function the most. So I think that they view it as a kind of there's some equity there. It's kind of a pay to play or user fee type approach to raising the funds. Historically, MARC has been funded in a similar way to NERPC, although there is no state statute requiring it. Each of the counties in the region and then the 4 largest cities in the region have member dues that they pay annually to support the Council of Governments there. And that proved to not be enough for the MPO side as well over time. So that's why they went to the tip maintenance fee. And then a few years after the Mid-America Regional Council did that, the Wichita MPO did as well. The Wichita area MPO is a little bit smaller than our region. They have about 500,000 or 600,000 people in it. It's also a little bit different in that the city of Wichita is a single, really large city within the region. And then they have a bunch of really small cities as well. But even in that situation, they were able to generate the support to raise a tip participation fee as well. So there's kind of 2 models that I'm very familiar with that have worked. Usually it's taken about a year to kind of work through the details to make sure that there's agreement and support from all the affected actors within the region. But it's been really successful. And I know there's other MPOs throughout the country that have gone to this model as well. And that's something I could do a little further research into, Ty, and find out how many other MPOs are using that approach. But I know that MARC was not the first one in the country to do it, and there's a whole bunch of them that are. So that's something that we can certainly provide additional detail at an upcoming meeting, if that's something that's of interest.
One of the things I've always been concerned about in my town of Highland and in government generally, and NERPC specifically now, is the 2 measurements in public finance that we look for to talk about the fiscal health of an entity is resilience and sustainability. Resilience is your ability to weather a significant impact like an economic or a fiscal disaster, like a pandemic maybe. And sustainability is the ability to meet the expenses of demands put on you over time. And I think that I don't know much about the resilience. I think that we have a sustainability challenge, which is the one you should address first. You got to exist before you can have things in place for the disaster. And I'd like to see that explored. I hope the legislative committee will revisit the issue at the legislature again about changing our funding formula. I'm reading some stuff from GFOA. I won't take a lot of time of the commission. I beg everyone's pardon. I read some stuff that GFOA is starting to put out some white papers now on the issue of revisiting how we finance governments generally, that we've not updated that model, and that our economy in terms of what primarily drives it has changed significantly enough that property tax is really probably as good as it can be on other things. They just aren't probably going to make a big difference as we move further along in the 21st century. And we'll have to rely on that less and less and find something else. So I'd be intrigued with that. And I thank you for the idea, Tom. I'm sorry, I'm calling you by your first name. I didn't pick up your last name. I apologize. So you can call me Mike or Michael. I'm really not vain about that unless I'm signing a check. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for, and the commission, thank you for your leave to allow me to colloquy with staff.
Yeah, if I could say real quick too, I am new. My full name's Thomas Dow. I will answer to Tom or Thomas. I do prefer Thomas. And so thank you for your kind words, and I'm happy to provide that information at an upcoming meeting.
And Thomas is our director, our new director of transportation, just for those of you that haven't had the privilege of meeting him yet or weren't in previous meetings when he was introduced.
But if I may comment, I would, at our special meeting in December of the Finance and Personnel Committee, if Thomas and Michael would, as well as the Legislative Committee, could join us to, because I think there's some factors here that would serve us well to share in our going forward for the 2022 budget and our plan. That's all I have to say on that.
That's an excellent idea. That's all my report. Thanks, Thomas, for all of that. And unless there's any more, questions about anything that we talked about, I think that's an excellent idea. And not to beat this to death, but just to piggyback on and repeat a comment that Mr. Griffin said is, two resolutions have been passed now by this commission to ask for this increase in local share. And as he had said, it's really time to accomplish that in earnest. So thank you. I appreciate it. Again, there's super good news. I don't want this discussion to in any way diminish the tremendous things happening. And so I don't mean to make this a dire sort of construct here, but we want to keep those good things happening. And to be able to keep that momentum, there are some needs that we unfortunately weren't able to address when we were first talking about this, and we really need to address them. That's all I got, Chair. Thank you.
And the increase in PL and 5303 funds and the impact that'll have on the NERC budget in terms of needing additional matching funds, that's a good problem to have in my mind, because we're trying to figure out how to access those federal funds to benefit the region in a more robust way. So that's better than the opposite problem of not, of getting a cut in funding. So I think that we should view this as a good news problem, if that makes sense.
Amen to that. I appreciate that, Thomas. That was much better framed. That is absolutely correct.
It's the kind of problem I like to try to help solve.
Yeah, there is, and that really is. I thank you, because that really is the takeaway here. There is a lot of good news happening, and part of that good news is the potential funding that's available to us, and that is all really, really beneficial for Northwest Indiana. So thank you for turning that in that direction, Thomas. You're absolutely correct.
You bet. Thank you, Ty.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I may, this was all good news. The great news was this was the reauthorization of our 2022, 2026 Surface Transportation Plan. So now we have the comfort of knowing that's funded, plus all this bonus money that is ongoing. So we can't lose sight of the fact it was a reauthorization as well as an increase in funding.
Indeed.
Yes, along with the reauthorization, there's an additional $275 billion nationally in new transportation spending on top of what had been authorized in the FAST Act. So, yes.
It just means we're still in business and will continue to be.
Exactly.
Thank you
for that, Mr. Breisky. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Warner.
Excuse me one moment. This is Candace.
Yes.
I believe several commissioners have joined us. I think it's been for a while now. Didn't want to interject in the presentations, but do we want to take another roll call, or how do you want to proceed with that?
Well, we had what was it, 23, and we needed 4 more.
Yes.
Can you identify the new people to just be added to the roll? Would that be permissible, Mr. Hollenbeck?
Yes.
Okay, can we just identify the new people that have attended so that we can see if we have the quorum? Candace?
I know I entered after the roll call. This is Michael Griffin.
Right, I'm not sure. Well, there was a mayor, I believe maybe.
Okay,
Mayor
well, then perhaps it'd be best that we go with the roll call just to be sure. I think we may have a quorum now.
Okay. All right, so I'll take another full roll call.
Yes.
Kyle Allen. Dwayne Arndt,
I'm here.
Jeanette Babs,
Here.
Janet Beck. I thought I saw her join. Janet Beck,
Here.
thank you. Jeff Benson,
Here.
Jim Biggs, Kevin Brightsky,
Here.
Charlie Brown,
Here,
Robert Carnahan, Bill Carroll, Anthony Copeland, Jocelyn Denham, Tom Dermody,
Yes.
thank you. John Derwinski,
Present.
thank you. Dinah Dumbrus,
Present.
Denise Ebert, Bill Emerson, Robert Forster,
Here.
Michael Griffin,
Here,
thank you. Tony Hendricks, Richard Hardaway,
Here.
Eric Hall,
Here.
Jack Geralds, Justin Keel,
Present.
thank you. Andrew Kiris,
Here.
Robert LeMay,
Here.
Sue Lynch, Sheila pardon me? Okay, Sheila Matias, Tom McDermott, Lori Mercer, Wendy Miss,
Present.
thank you. Mike Mullenhour, Edward Morales, Matt Murphy, Dwayne Perry,
Here.
thank you. David Peeler,
Here.
thank you. Bob Paparad, Jim Pressel, Jerome Prince, Rick Rifa, Tom Schmidt,
Here.
thank you. Brian Snedecor,
Present.
thank you. Welcome. Steve Spebar, Greg Stinson,
Here.
thank you. Gerald Swets, Sharon Zuido, Mary Tanis,
Present.
thank you. Jim Tunn,
Present.
thank you. George Topple,
Here.
John Yelkich. Well, we're close, but we end at 26.
I thought Jerome Prince was, I didn't hear him respond.
Yeah.
or-
that was,
Was he on
My
board?
apologies if I missed over your name, Jerome Prince. He initially responded in the first roll call. So we are still one shy of a full commission quorum.
All right, well, I guess we'll proceed in the
Oh,
executive session.
Denise Ebert, I'm sorry, one moment. Denise Ebert just sent a chat. She is here. That makes quorum.
Okay, great. Okay,
Mr.
we'll continue as a full commission meeting then.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman,
Yes,
noting that we have a quorum, I just want to advise my fellow commissioners with their grace that I have to leave at 10:30 because I have to sell bonds to finance park improvements. So I would like, or maybe 10:45, but if there's any matter that needs to be voted and it looks like we're going to get close to that, I don't want to deny a quorum for matters like the budget and the balance of matters that are on the agenda. I just wanted to make the chair informed about that in case he wants to invite consideration of matters that require votes sooner rather than later in the agenda.
the next, we can move on, and I'd like to do that. If the next item on the agenda is the Environmental Management Policy Committee from Bill Emerson. Is that a brief report, or should we move on to the action items?
Yes, the Environmental Management Policy Committee did not meet this month.
Okay, in that case, we're on to the consent agenda items. We will hear all the agenda items and then vote on them collectively. And then we'll be following that with the Technical Planning Commission, which I think has an agenda item. Okay, moving right along. The meeting calendar. In your package is a meeting calendar for the full commission and executive board sessions throughout the year. We'd like to have, if you have had time to look at that, we'd like to get an action item approved for the commission meeting dates for 2022.
I would just note very, very quickly that one of the changes from this last year, and partly precipitated by the challenges and not having all the information we needed to be able to pull the budget forward, is to have an earlier December meeting, which we did in the past, but we hadn't done, I think, for last year and maybe not even the year before that. So that we will not have a meeting on this calendar in November, but that meeting will be moved to, I believe it's the second Thursday in
December 8th.
Yep. So that's one change.
Okay. We have a motion to approve that. We'll vote on all the items together unless there's exceptions.
Mary Janice will consent to the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, and then we'll vote all of them collectively unless there's an objection to any of these items. Finance and Personnel Committee, Greg Stinson.
And the Finance and Personnel Committee met on October 21st to review the budget and financial status and approve the general fund and CARES Act fund claims registers for August and September. The committee also met on November 5th and November 12th to discuss the 2022 budget. The committee finally met again this morning at 8 a.m. to review the budget, financial status, and approve the general fund and CARES Act fund claims registers for October. The Finance and Personnel Committee brings 5 items to the commission for consideration and approval this morning. The first is a procurement recommendation or Procurement Recommendations 21-01.01, 02, and 03. Lisa Todd will present procurement recommendations.
Thank you. We have a new grant from the Federal Transit Administration. It is grant number IN 2021-54. In this, we have vehicle replacement items. We have 1 bus for Opportunity Enterprises in the total of $82,000. These vehicle replacements will be at an 80-20 split, 80% being Federal Transit Administration dollars, 20% being from the local share from those entities. We are looking to approve $65,600 for the purchase of this vehicle in federal dollars. The next procurement item is 2 replacement vehicles for Porter County Aging and Community Services in a total of $100,000. Again, an 80-20 split for an amount of $104,000 in federal dollars. And then the third procurement item is for 2 more replacement vehicles for Porter County Aging Community Services in the amount of $140,000. And that is for an 80-20 split, not to exceed $112,000 in federal dollars. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Chair, the Finance and Personnel Committee forwards this with a favorable recommendation to the Commission. The second item is Resolution 21-21, authorizing the submittal of EDA 2022 Partnership Planning Grant application. Matthew Pascash will present and discuss this application.
Hello, everyone. Let's have a racer to see if I can get back in the meeting in time. So the Resolution 2121 is a continuation of a past resolution from this spring, which had authorize the executive director to seek a grant opportunity with the EDA to be applied towards our work in the economic development districts. The planning partnership grant is specifically a 50-50 or dollar for dollar match grant, in which case we would be putting up $70,000 to match $70,000 from the EDA to be applied towards costs of staffing, of administrative costs, training, supplies, stuff of that nature with the economic development district. The application request came in from the EDA, unfortunately, before this commission meeting. So we've technically already applied to the grant, but we would like for this retroactive resolution to be passed just so that it satisfies the EDA's request to have a new resolution passed for this specific fiscal year 2022 grant application. I can't think of anything more to say on that. So we would like to have the approval of this so that we can send this on to the EDA immediately to sort of fill that last gap of the application.
Matthew, thank you. I might just underscore that this is a regular occurrence, and we'll have the EDA wants to see this resolution yearly. This is for our normal operating funds for the Economic Development District. So you've approved a very similar resolution in the past. This will just happen every year when we need to resubmit.
I don't know if there's any questions. If not, Mr. Chair, the Finance and Personnel Committee forwards this with a recommendation to adopt Resolution 21-21. The next action item is Resolution 21-22, which is the Executive Director Employment Agreement Extension. Hopefully, the Commissioner Attorney Dave Hollenbach can explain this agreement and the reason it's necessary.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ty, as our executive director's employment contract, by its terms, was a 3-year agreement that expires on December 31st of this year. With that in mind, your chairman and Justin Keel and myself sat down and started the process of evaluating Ty so that we could make a recommendation first to the Finance and Personnel Committee and then on to the full commission regarding his continued employment and the terms and conditions under which that should occur. As has already been alluded to, we have had some moving target issues with our budget for 2022, both on the expenditure and on the income side. And as we continued the process of trying to come up with a recommendation, it became apparent to us that we just simply needed more information, especially on the income side, before we could recommend compensation and other considerations for a renewal of Ty's agreement. With that in mind, and somewhat reluctantly, it was decided that the best approach was to propose an extension of your executive director's current employment contract with NERC until the 2022 budget is finalized and we have a better feel and understanding for both income and expenditures as related to the staffing of NERC and our executive director. So this comes again with the recommended approval of the Finance and Personnel Committee that we enter into a executive director employment extension agreement that would continue in force and effect until adoption of the 2022 budget, which we're hoping will occur expeditiously.
Thank you, Mr. Hollenbach. Are any questions?
I'm just glad Ty still wants to work for us.
Well, he hasn't signed it yet, Michael.
Oh my, well, maybe I won't make my motion unless I see it signed.
But now he hasn't said he won't sign it either.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. I've tried to remove myself from this discussion. Thank you.
I take your point, but knowing that you'll accept is probably, it's a crucial element of the 4 points of a contract. Just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Just like it takes two to dance, it takes two to contract, right?
I think that's well said, Mr. Hollenbeck.
Okay. As Mr. Hollenbeck said, the Finance and Personnel Committee forwards Resolution 21-22 with a favorable recommendation for adoption by the commission. The next item is a contract with Geosyntek. Kathy Luther will present the contract.
Yes, good morning. The contract for Geosyntek was competitively procured. The purpose of the contract is to create technical guidelines for the new green infrastructure piece we added to our complete streets last year to make the living streets, if you'll recall. And the amount of the contract is $58,000, and it is all to be completed in the first half of 2022, because it is older money we are reusing.
Any questions about the contract for Kathy? All right. The Finance and Personnel Committee forwards the Geosyntek contract to the commission with a favorable recommendation for approval. The last action item is a contract with Cambridge Systematics. Scott Weber will present the contract.
Yes, good morning. So the contract between NERPC and Cambridge Systematics Incorporated in the amount of $149,862 is a contract for Cambridge Systematics to improve NERPC's travel demand model. NERPC's travel demand model is very important for all of the planning activities that we do as an agency, especially as leading up to our next long-range transportation plan update, which is due in May of 2023, and just helping all of our communities with various traffic forecasts that they request from us. So this contract, $67,870.11 will have to be expended by June of 2022, by the end of June of next year. And it's a 3-phase project. Most of the deliverables are due by next fall to help our agency with our next long-range transportation plan update. This will be the first time a consultant has performed wholesale work of updating our transportation model since the mid to late 90s. So it's a big deal. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott. I don't look like there's any questions. The Finance and Personnel Committee forwards this contract with a favorable recommendation for adoption by the full commission. Finally, the next scheduled meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee is 9 a.m. on Thursday, December 16th. At which time we hope to have some decisions we can make regarding the 2022 budget. And that's my report.
Mr. Chairman, with leave of you and the commission, would you make a point? I'm not a member of that committee, but may I be receiving a notice for that? I will try to attend. This is Commissioner Griffin.
Yes, by all means. I was going to extend a personal invitation to you if you would be so kind as to join us.
Thank you. I appreciate that grace, Mr. Chairman. And finally, I want the record to reflect that the coolest sweatshirt of anybody being worn of any member of the commission today is Commissioner Stinson's.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Go Maroons.
Mr. Chairman, this is Charlie Brown.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
We are taking action. Are we going to pass all of these by motion today, correct?
Yes, that's correct. We're doing.
I would like to recommend that we separate out the executive director's contract from this laundry list. I mean, to give it some importance and significance, and to also not appear as though we're trying to cover it up in the middle of all of these action items today.
This is merely an extension so that we continue with the existing contract. Otherwise, this contract terminates December 31st, and our next meeting isn't until January, at which time we will continue in the Finance and Personal Committee, and you're welcome to attend that too. Will be, I think, the second Thursday at 9 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, I would hear that as a request to move it from the consent agenda to make it a separate item. And that is the right of a commissioner. That is not a problem. I
Yes,
doubt that
we
it's
may
gonna-
do that.
And that's really what I hear that as, and I don't think that's a problem. That could simply be taken up as a separate matter following the balance of the consent agenda items, provided that there's no further request that a matter be separated for a separate distinct vote.
And I so move.
We have a motion to separate that from the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I would second that. However, I think that simply the request is under our rules would be enough if Roberts is our parliamentary authority, and that you
Okay.
can grant that as chair, that will be taken up separately.
I believe you're correct, Mr. Griffin, as always.
Not always.
We will separate that as a separate vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your input. Okay, moving, okay, Mr. Stinson, did that conclude your
That
portion of the
does
report?
Yes, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moving along to Technical Planning Committee, Kevin Brightsky will present.
I'd like to thank the commission first for considering the two contracts that were just discussed that will help with our transportation planning efforts. The Technical Planning Committee met on Tuesday, November 9th, and we heard an update on the next regional transportation planning process from Transportation Director Thomas Dow. This plan is due to be approved by NERC Commission in May 2023, and work to develop a schedule of development is underway. For more details, please see Mr. Dow. Staff reminded the committee of the current cycle of next level trails funding under Department of Natural Resources. Applications for these state funds are due to the DNR by December 1st. Please contact Mitch Barloga for any program details. And I'd like to say too that as Ty reported earlier, NERC has been awarded $17.8 million in federal raised discretionary grant program funds to complete the Marquette Greenway. And of course, you can contact Mitch Barloga for more details on that. Our next meeting will be January 11th, 2022. But now, under the consent agenda, there is one action recommended by TPC. Staff will present on this action.
Yes, if I may, Resolution 21-19 is adopting safety performance measure targets for the year 2022. This is an action that NERC is asked to take every year. It's a regularly occurring action to agree to INDOT's statewide targets for safety performance measures. So we have 180 days after which INDOT submits the statewide targets, whether or not to agree to support them or set our own. So this resolution sets to agree with the statewide targets that were set. So those targets are found on page 18 of your agenda packets. They are a number of fatalities on all of the public roads, the rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, the number of serious injuries, the number of rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and the number of non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities. And if you look at the table on page 18 of your agenda packets, you can see how this resolution would change NERC's core planning documents, namely the NWI 2050 plan, as well as the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program to reflect those changes. So if there are any questions on this resolution, it comes with a favorable recommendation from the Technical Planning Committee.
I would point out, as customary for our committee, we've changed the language a little bit to say not to exceed the target number. So hopefully we will have no more than those numbers, and that's our goal.
Good point.
The TPC has recommended approval for Resolution 2119 in the consent agenda if there are no other questions. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brightsky. That concludes the consent agenda items for this vote, and we will exclude item 8.2.4 for this vote and follow this up after the vote for the Executive Director Employment Agreement extension, which is on page 13 of your package. So do we have?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented, excluding 8.24.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, you please take the roll.
Yes. Dwayne Arndt. Dwayne Arndt,
I'm here. Yes.
thank you. Jeanette Baps,
Aye.
thank you. Janet Beck,
Aye.
thank you. Jeff Benson,
Aye.
thank you. Kevin Brightsky,
Yes.
thank you. Charlie Brown,
Yes.
thank you. Tom Dermody,
Yes.
thank you. John Derwinski,
Yes.
thank you. Dinah Dumbrus,
Aye.
thank you. Denise Ebert. You text yes in the chat box. Thank you, Denise. Robert Forster,
Aye.
thank you. Michael Griffin,
Yes.
thank you. Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
thank you. Eric Hall,
Yes.
thank you. Justin Keel,
Yes.
thank you. Andrew Kiris,
Yes.
thank you. Robert Lemay,
Aye.
thank you. Wendy Miss,
She votes yes.
thank you. Dwayne, I'm sorry, Dwayne Perry,
Aye.
thank you. David Peeler,
Aye.
thank you. Jerome Prince, Jerome Prince. Tom Schmidt,
Yes.
thank you. Brian Snedecor,
Yes.
thank you. Greg Stinson,
Yes.
thank you. Mary Tanis,
Yes.
thank you. Jim
Welcome.
Tunn,
Yes.
George Topple,
Yes.
thank you. That concludes roll call.
Okay, that is the quorum still, so. Okay, that passes. And we did have a quorum, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Now,
Mr. Chairman,
say again?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to approve item 8.2.4?
Yes, Mr. Tunn.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second, Charlie Brown.
And we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, we will take a vote for 8.2.4. We have a motion and a second. And no further discussion, please take the roll.
okay. Dwayne Arndt,
Yes, I'm here.
thank you. Jeanette Baps,
Aye.
thank you. Janet Beck,
Aye.
Jeff Benson,
Aye.
Kevin Brightsky,
Yes. Yes.
Charlie Brown,
Yes.
thank you.
Shoes that I need to, yeah.
Tom Dermody,
Yes.
thank you. John Derwinski,
Yes.
thank you. Dinah Dumbrus, Dinah Dumbrus,
Aye.
thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
Robert Forster,
Yes.
Denise Ebert. She chatted yes. Michael Griffin,
Yes.
Richard Hardaway,
Yes.
Eric Hall,
Yes.
Justin Keel,
Yes.
Andrew Kiris,
Yes.
Thank you. Robert Lemay.
Aye.
Thank you. Wendy Miss.
Votes yes.
Thank you. Dwayne Perry.
Aye.
Thank you. David Peeler.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Schmidt. Tom Schmidt.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Snedecor.
Yes.
Thank you. Greg Stinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Mary Tanis.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
Jim Tunn.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And George Topple.
Yes.
That concludes roll call.
Okay, and we had the full commission quorum for that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. That motion passes. And then welcome for the extension to Ty. Hopefully we'll get this taken care of in December or at the next commission meeting in January. The next item on the agenda is the NERC Economic Development District Director or District Report from Dennery Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple items as following up on Ty's news about the loan that was approved. This has been RLF week being promoted by the EDA. So NERC's EDD staff has been working with our communications specialist, Lucas, and various social media has been issued by Lucas to help promote RLF week. There's also a updated press release going out to again make the public aware of this loan program. In addition, we have been working with communities to provide support letters and SIDS compliance letters for grant applications to the EDA. We continue to encourage you to communicate with me if you have project ideas, and I will facilitate conversations with our economic development representative, James Winters. James will be returning, I believe, next week after being on a short leave. And we do request that you give us some date options to work around his schedule for those conversations, as well as a couple weeks notice on the request for those SIDS letters of support. And then lastly, we've been working to formulate the steering committee that's going to be needed for the economic development resiliency plan. And we have about 17 individuals that have agreed to serve, and we're looking at a kickoff meeting of that steering committee in early December so that the planning process can begin in earnest. And again, we will be doing outreach to the contacts that you provide, as well as other contacts to help collect the data that TIP will need. And that summarizes my report from the Economic Development District.
Okay, thank you very much, Jenny. I'd like to be added to that if that would be possible to put my name on the list as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next item of agenda is Matt Deitchley, LaPorte District Deputy Commissioner. Are you there?
I am here. Good morning, everyone.
Marvelous.
Just a few things I wanted to let folks know about. The Flex Road Indiana's Pell study for the Borman to alleviate congestion still moves forward. I know a lot of you have been keeping tabs on that. We've had a number of public meetings as well. At this point, our consultant Parsons has produced 4 alternative packages for alleviating that congestion. Some of the options we're looking at are dynamic shoulder lanes, which is that hard shoulder running, ramp metering, variable speed limits, and lane control. We're hoping by the first quarter of next year, we'll have a decision on our alternative, and obviously we'll be sharing that when we have more information. For anyone who's interested in obviously this is going to be a big topic for a number of years here as we look to try to alleviate that congestion. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us, but also indianaflexroad.com is a great resource to see where we've put all the information that we've compiled. So feel free to visit that and get more information. We're looking for winter drivers. We will get the job done, but as always, we're looking for winter drivers. So if you know some folks, please send them our way. But one thing I want to make sure everyone is aware of too is we've got a new feature this year. As we get rid of that snow and ice every year, we have our CARS 511 program, which hopefully a lot of you have looked at before. It's a great place to look at for what kind of things are happening out there on the roads, especially when it comes to winter conditions. One of the newest things we've got this year and by the way, it's 511in.org. One of the new things we got this year is we've got our snow plows are going to be tracked on our roads on that website. So when you log in, when we have snow and ice, you'll be able to see where our plows are and also click on that and take a look at the camera of the plow where it is on the road. So you can get a better idea where the road conditions are before you head out too. So we're still building up to get all of our plows to have that capability, but those that do will be utilizing that this winter. I think it's gonna be great for the public to be able to get an idea what the roads are looking like out there. Last thing I've got is community crossings. As you know, earlier this month, we had the announcement of community crossings, about 100 million statewide to about 218 different LPAs, and the NERC area received a lot of that as well. We talked about that earlier in the meeting. In fact, looks like those that received the maximum $1 million award, or at least very close to that, Hammond, Hobart, LaPorte, Lake County, LaPorte County, and Maryville. So congratulations to all of them. We will be having another call coming up then next year as well. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, feel free to let me know if you need anything from me.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your report. Moving along, we have the next item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business?
Yes, Dyer would like to request a couple of things. One of them has to do with Mitch Barloga because it's involving a crosswalk across Route 30, which would connect Cherville and Munster bike paths, and it would lead eventually into moving into Illinois south of Dyer. And so we really are looking for help with a pedestrian bike crossing across Route 30, somewhere around Kaler Middle School in that area. Second thing is we'd like to extend Calumet Avenue to 4 lanes south of Route 30. We have such traffic congestion there. And so we'd like to extend it to 77th, which would then look at making 77th a 4-lane crosswalk. The traffic is just, I mean, we hear from residents all the time about how terrible the traffic is, and this would certainly alleviate some of that problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else with other business? Okay, last call for other business. Moving along to announcements. Do we have any announcements for today? Are there any announcements? No. The only announcement I have is to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and wish everyone the best of luck and God bless.
Thank you.
And is there a motion to adjourn?
You have it.
We have a motion.
Second.
And we wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Thanksgiving and Happy New Year. God bless all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you. Same to everyone.
Thank you.